Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. On today's show, North American trade wars. Trump puts 25% tariffs on Canada, US, and 10% on China. And moments ago, Canada responds with its own 25% tariff. Trade war is on. Also, MicroStrategy to expand Bitcoin holdings with a $563 million investment in fresh funding. Also, here's why the Bitcoin price could surge this February. Also on today's show, U.S. Treasury Secretary embraces Bitcoin. Will BTC skyrocket to 150K and beyond? In our Ask AI segment, we're going to compare Chat GPT versus Grok in real-time news that happened just an hour ago. We're going to ask it to give us details on these tariffs. And we also have a new book of the week. Today we're going to review Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, Crypto Fam, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka, and today is February 1st, 2025, and crypto is a bleeding red, so I changed my ARGB microphone and the whole setup to red here. It just takes 5 seconds to do. If you guys like this kind of setup, you should use an app called Signal RGB, pardon me. I have no affiliation with them, but it synchronizes all your equipment so they all, turn the same color at the same time and everything, instead of everything being separate. Pretty useful tool, and I really enjoy it. And they've got hundreds of different choices to go by, completely free. Of course, there's a full version. I use the free one, and it does a great job. But let's skip by that and talk about today's trade wars. So Trump confirmed that tariffs are going to begin on Canada, Mexico, and China as of Tuesday. A 25% on blanket tariff on Canada and Mexico, on top of any existing tariff. This is not a replacement tariff. This is on top of anything else if there was any kind of previous tariff. And moments ago, in the Great White North, Canada, their Prime Minister Trudeau came back with the brilliant plan to retaliate with their own 25% tariffs. Interestingly enough, at 5 p.m., about 4 hours before Trudeau went live with this, Trump stated that if the Canada or Mexico or China, I'm not sure about China, but if they retaliate with their own tariff, then U.S. is going to increase the tariff. And of course, Trudeau held a press conference and said, we are going to retaliate with a 25% tariff of our own. A little senseless when the press secretary on Friday for the U.S. answered to this question about their speculation that Trudeau is going to implement 25% tariffs in retaliation, and her response was, well, I really suggest Trudeau should speak to Trump directly instead of talking ridiculousness with the press. But it wasn't ridiculous. He went through with it today. And, hopefully it's all just talk. But so far, what Trump has done has not been talk. It's been action. So the markets, we're going to go through our market watch and Bitcoin analysis, but do expect a bunch of red, really based on what's going on with these trade wars. Later on, we are going to put AI and Grok to the test to compare real-time news, and I'm curious to see how real-time they both are. Later on, we're going to review our new book of the week, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, #1 finance book of all time. We'll go through some of the specifics in the book. It's a very nice story, and I recommend everybody to read it. Let's get right into our technical analysis because everything is red, including my microphone. So let's get into it here. We've got Bitcoin down almost 3% at 99,450 and dipping even more. Ethereum down to 3,082, down 6.5%. Solana down 10%, 207.70. XRP down 6.5% to dipping under $3, 284. Doge down 9% to 30 cents. Even Shiba Inu down also 10%. Basically everything except the stable coins currently in the red. Let's get into our crypto bubbles, and 100% of the cryptos are currently in the red. Virtual looking a little worse than some others, down 22%. Pengu continues to tumble, down 17%. Pepe down 13%. Pretty much all equally down. Trump coin down 17%, but they're pretty much all down between 7 to 15, 18%. Let's zoom out to the week, and we also see everything in the red, specifically Bonk down 28%, Virtual down 38%, Render down 26%, Pepe 20%, Baby Pengu hurting this time of year, down 43%. And if we zoom out to the monthly, the big gainer for the month, but it's actually down for the week. The XCN up 1,143% for the month. XRP up 17% for the month. XDC 26%. XMR 11.5%. KCS 24%. If we check out our crypto market cap, we see that Bitcoin has now gone under the 2 trillion mark. And the current price, again, still dipping. Right now I'm seeing green here, but it's down even from a moment ago that we checked. Currently the market cap is $1.968 trillion for Bitcoin, $371 billion for Ethereum, XRP $164 billion, Tether steady at $140 billion, Solana $101 billion, BNB 92 billion, USDC 53, Doge at 44 billion in the number 8 position, Cardano at number 9 at 30 billion 600 million, and Tron to wrap up the top 10 close to $21 billion market cap. If we go to the total market cap for crypto, we are down about 200 billion from a couple days ago, currently at $3.3 trillion. Bitcoin's market cap advancing up very close to 60% at 59.7% currently. Ethereum dipping a bit, 11.26%. XRP dipped for sure, under 5% now at 4.97%. And Solana at 3% even. Our crypto fear and greed index, and she is way down today, 60 in neutral. Haven't seen neutral in a while. Yesterday was a 68 in greed, and last week a 73 in greed. And currently we have approximately 877 days. This number fluctuates every day, I've noticed, depending on the markets, until the next Bitcoin halving in 2028. right now, this exact moment, it's actually showing 2029. This is a little bit more of a accurate view. If we look at the average block generation of 10 minutes, right now the block is at 7.5 minutes, way faster than the average of 10. We've got 168,098 blocks still to mine until the next halving. And until the year 2140, until the last Bitcoin is mined, we have 1,181,557 left to mine. Let's check out our market cap by global company. We have gold at 19 trillion, Apple at 3.5 trillion, Microsoft number 3 trillion, Nvidia 2.9 trillion, Google 2.5, Amazon 2.5, Bitcoin 1.971 trillion in the number 7 position, silver 18.84 trillion, Saudi Aramco number 9 1.75, Meta, Facebook 1.746, and Tesla at exactly 1.3 trillion. And you can currently get 997 satoshis for $1 US fiat dollar. And if we flip to our US national debt clock, we have increased about 4.5 billion from yesterday at 36 trillion 427 billion dollars. That equals to $107,080 per U.S. citizen, or $323,046 per taxpayer in the U.S. Trade war is the big story today. Announced really yesterday, confirmed today, and then the battle begins in Canada and the States. So the interesting thing here is Canada and the U.S. have a great relationship and always have a really good relationship. When the States have been in trouble, Canada's been there to help out. Of course, Canada, their population is 40 million, and we have the U.S. with a population of over 300 million. So much smaller population. Bigger in land mass, but much smaller population, likely due to the cold, the climate. And if you really look at the population distribution in Canada, it's all really to the south, very close, as south as you can get to the U.S. border is, I think, about 90% of the population, or at least 80% of the population. I'm not sure of the stats, but it has to be pretty close to that. They've always been excellent trading partners. They help each other when Canada's in trouble. U.S. is there to help. When the U.S. is in trouble, Canada's there to help. So what's interesting here is if the U.S. slaps 25% tariff on Canada, shouldn't the rest of the world be shaking in their boots right now? I get it with Mexico. Mexico let in, tens of millions of illegal migrants, pretty much had this open border policy. Now, Trump's claim is, hey, Canada also let in some illegal aliens, and there is a fentanyl issue, and to describe that, China's making this fentanyl. They're sending it into Canada, and they're sending it into Mexico, and then it crosses the border from Canada and Mexico. I think it's a minor issue when it comes to the Canadian border side, and more of a major issue when it comes to Mexico. So I feel like there's something a little more underlying behind this. But again, I want to reiterate that if the U.S. is putting 25% tariffs on their best neighbor, anticipate some real bombshells for the rest of the world. Just in the next few weeks, we could very well see some big tariffs put on other countries, and this plan by Trump to bring all the manufacturing in-house again, I think might start to take place. We're really going to see in the next few days what exactly is going to transpire, because none of these tariffs make sense. U.S. is going to pay more for their goods on, I believe, oil is a big export of Canada. Cars, apparently 20% of the cars that were manufactured were actually built in Canada and brought over to the States. And certainly there's a lot more industries. And on the flip side, Canada's small economy is going to be just jacked to the max with a 25% tariff on anything. It's going to affect Canada than it is more than the States. So I'm curious to see if this is a lot of, sword mongering and threats, and let's see what actually happens and how long it lasts. Hopefully it's short-lived. Now, on the flip side, when we talk about crypto, everything's dipping right now, as we saw in the markets. However, if these things, we're going to see what happens on Monday with the traditional markets. My presumption is they're also going to tank. And it's definitely a bearish outlook whenever big tariffs, whenever there's socioeconomic problems, especially with these, friendly nations traditionally. It can't be good for the markets, so we'll see what happens on Monday. We're already seeing Bitcoin down. I know the altcoins are down way more than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's kind of holding steady, down 3%. The other guys are down 7%, 10%. Even the largest cap cryptos, XRP, Solana, Doge, they're getting hammered in the markets. So I expect some pounding in the markets on Monday. But if things do turn around and an agreement is made between North America, then expect that the opposite's going to happen. There's going to be a big pump, and what might have gone down, 5-10% today, it might go up 10, 20, 30% in a couple weeks. So let's hope it goes that direction, because we need some good news for the crypto. We definitely have some good news for MicroStrategy once again. MicroStrategy to expand Bitcoin holdings with a $563 million in fresh funding, innovative financing through perpetual preferred stock signals confidence in Bitcoin's long-term value, aiming to elevate holding further. Another day, another $543 million to plow into Bitcoin with a 471,100 BTC on the balance sheet so far. MicroStrategy is the largest corporate holder of the number one crypto, falling short only of Binance, US spot Bitcoin ETFs, and Satoshi Nakamoto himself. For his part, former MicroStrategy CEO and vocal Bitcoin advocate Michael Saylor is vying for the top spot in Hodler's Hall of Fame for the largest cajones. Series A. The publicly traded U.S. software company will raise the funds to buy Bitcoin through the sale of 7.3 billion shares of its 8% Series A perpetuals preferred stock, which it anticipates will generate the funds around $563 million to fuel the company's aggressive Bitcoin acquisition strategy. According to the January 31st, 2025 release, the preferred stock offering is expected to settle on February 5th and will provide MicroStrategy with a significant war chest to pursue its goals. A price target of $49 million per Bitcoin. Recently laying out his 21-year outlook for Bitcoin, Saylor confidently predicted a bear case of $3 million per coin and a bull case of $49 million per coin, assuming a 21% and 37% annual growth rate respectively. Far lower than Bitcoin's 60% annual growth rate over the past decade. At the time when the tailwinds of Bitcoin have never been so blustery, even a nation-state race to accumulate the asset fails to nudge most Bitcoin bulls' price needle as high as 49 million. But Saylor isn't most Bitcoin bulls, and MicroStrategy isn't like most software corporations. Its decision to use the proceeds to buy up more Bitcoin is perhaps the clearest indication yet of its confidence in the asset's long-term potential and staggering growth in value. So, a 21-year outlook, their price prediction is between 3 million bear scenario and 49 million. So they are saying by, this is Michael Saylor, by the year 2046, we could be looking at a $49 million Bitcoin. And this goes in line to what I was talking about a few weeks ago, and that if the U.S. decides to buy 1 million Bitcoins and hold it for 20 years, I definitely talked about this. If they hold for 20 years and the price went to what we said the debt was, which in this case is 36 trillion as we speak. So if the price of Bitcoin went to 36 million and they had 1 million of them, then that would equal 36 trillion and the debt would be paid off. So Michael Saylor's price prediction is interesting. I wonder if he's using similar kind of math and doing the math on what the actual U.S. debt will be. And it very well could be 49 trillion in that amount of time. In fact, it could be 60 plus trillion by then. So interesting and very bullish. He goes on to say $100 per share with dividends of 8% per annum. MicroStrategy's perpetual preferred stock will have a liquidation preference of $100 per share and accumulation cumulative dividends at a fixed rate of 8% per annum. Perpetual preferred stock holders will have the right to convert their shares into MicroStrategy's Class A common stock at an initial conversion rate of 0.1 shares per share. The offering is managed by a syndicate bank of Barclays, none of which hold any Bitcoin as a balance sheet asset for the time being. So it appears to be a go for MicroStrategy yet again this Monday. Definitely, I could see some big things coming in the month of February. And here's why the Bitcoin price could surge this February. Experts and analysts see February as a bullish month for BTC, with Bitcoin price poised to reach 940,000 by the end of 2025. Yeah, baby. February is historically a bullish month for a Bitcoin price, which suggests a significant rally is imminent. BTC is poised to surge past 940,000 by the end of 2025. 98,000 has emerged as a key point of both resistance and support. The 3.5 trillion crypto market is currently facing a downtrend, with Bitcoin price in the red zone and the red microphone. However, historical patterns suggest a bullish run ahead, as February has traditionally been a strong month. Bitcoin to see a bullish uptrend in February. In a recent ex-post, analyst Mr. Crypto hailed February as a bullish month for Bitcoin, drawing parallels from historical data. According to Mr. Crypto's analysis, February boasts an average monthly return of 14.5%, with last year's return reaching a remarkable 43.5%, the highest since 2013's 62% surge in February, following a notable 9.29 return in January 2024. Mr. Crypto's analysis takes a surprisingly cautious tone, predicting a modest 0.07 return for February. Why so bearish? In addition, Crypto enthusiasts, crypto gurus highlighted the remarkable performance of the Bitcoin price in the month of February. Bitcoin typically shows an upward pattern in February, increasing the likelihood that this pattern will repeat. Predictably, a bullish rally ahead, the analysis asked. Why would it be any different this time around? And we see here 2024 in February 43%, 2023, and remember these are the bear years, the year before the halving, in February 0.3%, the one before that 12%. The year after the halving of 2020, it was up 37%. And let's go back to the year after the halving, which is 2017, and it was up 23%. And 2012, the first halving, and the year after was up 62%. So very bearish. Maybe they know something about these tariffs. In addition to crypto enthusiasts, crypto gurus highlighted the remarkable performance of the Bitcoin price in the month of February. And let's get into Glassnode analysis. Key pivot zone emerges. According to Glassnode analysis, a large volume of BTC has been bought and sold at a range of 94 to 101,000 over the last 45 days. This has created a dense supply cluster near the crucial point of 98,000. The analysis noted that the 98,000 level is emerging as a key pivot zone for the cryptocurrency's next move, with the point acting as both the resistance and a support. It will likely influence Bitcoin's future price movements. And the same way 98,000 is a low pivot zone, 109,000 is the high pivot zone. So if we can get above that, then we'll be looking at potentially new price discovery and a big pump once we get over that level. So let's hope we get over that level rather than under the 98 level with all this tariff news. Some good news when talking about the Bitcoin U.S. Treasury Reserve is the U.S. Treasury Secretary embraces Bitcoin. Finally, will Bitcoin skyrocket to 150,000 and beyond? Well, this is truly good news. With pro-crypto policies gaining traction in Washington and states moving to adopt Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, analysts are predicting a major Bitcoin price breakout. Coin Codex AI prediction algorithm forecast BTC surpassing 150,000 by April 2025, fueled by institutional adoption, government support, and growing supply scarcity. Is this the beginning of the Bitcoin's next parabolic run? U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Crypto is about freedom. In a recent interview with Fox Business, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressed strong support for Bitcoin and crypto adoption, aligning with President Trump's pro-crypto stance. He emphasized that the crypto economy is here to stay and criticized the Democratic Party's approach to digital assets. I've been excited about the president's embrace of crypto, and I think it fits very well with the Republican Party's ethos. Crypto is about freedom, and the crypto economy is here to stay. He accused the Democrats of distancing themselves from crypto due to the fallout from Sam Bankman-Fried's, the disgraced FTX founder, whose donations were heavily linked to the Democratic Party. Yes, I believe he was the number one donator to the Democratic Party before being, losing everybody's money, defunking his business, and ending up in jail. They're willing to take down the whole industry because of a bad behavior on their part. Bad behavior from one actor. Beyond politics, Bessent highlighted Bitcoin's role in bringing new investors into markets, particularly younger generations who have been skeptical about traditional finance. Crypto is bringing in young people. It's bringing in people who haven't participated in markets, having a market culture in the US and people believing that markets work for them in the centerpiece of capitalism. With institutional adoption rising and states exploring Bitcoin as a reserve asset, Percent's comments reinforce the idea that crypto is becoming a key part of America's financial future. While Washington debates the future of crypto, several U.S. states are taking action to hold Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. The movement is gaining traction with the legislative progress across multiple states. 15 states have publicly endorsed the idea of holding Bitcoin in the state reserves. 11 states have introduced bills supporting the creation of a Bitcoin strategic reserve. Arizona and Utah have already received committee approval, moving proposals forward to the House and Senate votes. So here's a chart of the states and where it lies in the approval stage. So as we just read, Arizona and Utah, it's already gotten committee approval and it's in the House Senate approval. And the next step is signed into law, and we have most of the other states, except for South Dakota and Florida, they've introduced a bill, and also Alabama. They're at the bill introduction. The other, what do we have? About 8 have gotten committee approval and are waiting for the House and Senate approval. So, and here it's a little witty how they have the finish line here. I like that. So Arizona and Utah are leading the race for the Bitcoin strategic reserve in their respected states. And that's notwithstanding anything to do with the federal level. So this is just from the states. And then, as each of these states get House and Senate approval, you're going to see a Bitcoin pump. And once this happens, then we're probably going to see a lot more of the states until we have all 50 states potentially creating a bill and introducing a Bitcoin reserve state by state. And then perhaps at the same time, we shall see the government, the federal government, actually getting this bill introduced for the federal government. And once that happens, to the moon, baby, as they say. So things are definitely progressing. This tariff thing is a little bit of a setback, but there's always setbacks and always political problems, and things are never just smooth, are they? Let's get into something that is smooth, and I would consider the AIs to be smooth as silk nowadays. And remember, guys, we're basically seeing the crappiest AIs that we're ever going to see. It's only going to get better and better from here as the programming gets bigger, as the processing gets bigger. It's almost like every 2 weeks there's an update for one of these AIs, Chat GPT, Grok. It's just update, update, update. So with every update, it's actually getting better and smarter. So what we're going to do today is we are going to see how good they are with real-time news. So the news came out now. It's been exactly 2 hours since this press conference from the Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau. And our prompt is a very simple prompt. Please describe the exact tariffs Canada will impose on the USA that were announced a few moments ago. And we've got the same prompt in both. And let's see what they come back with. I am quite interested in what kind of news they tell us. So, In response to recent U.S. tariffs, Canada has announced a retaliatory measure targeting a range of American goods. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau stated that Canada will impose a 25% tariff on U.S. products totaling $155 billion. The initial phase will see $30 billion in tariffs implemented when the U.S. tariffs take effect, with an additional $125 billion to follow after 21 days. And this is 100% accurate. I watched this live, and then they go through and talk about specifics: affected products, agricultural goods, alcohol, orange juice, consumer goods, clothing, appliances, industrial materials, lumber, plastics. And let's see what Grok, which is Elon Musk's X platform AI, came back with. Canada has announced retaliatory tariffs in response to the U.S. imposing tariffs on Canadian goods. Here are the details of the tariffs Canada will impose on the U.S. Tariff rate. Canada will impose a 25% tariff on a wide range of U.S. goods. The total value of goods will affect $155 billion worth of goods. The immediate tariffs, effective Tuesday, February 4th, $30 billion in tariffs. Subsequent tariffs, an additional $125 billion, will be implemented 21 days later, giving the Canadian companies and supply chains time to adjust. And that's almost word for word that came out of Trudeau's mouth. And it goes through the products here. So, both Grok and Chat GPT came back with pretty good replies. So that tells me we can 100% trust both AIs to come back with the latest news. So traditionally, you would go into, Google, or you would turn on the evening news at 11 and get whatever news it was, or whatever Reuters decides to tell you what the news is. And now with free media, internet media, podcasters, you could definitely just go into Google for the past few years and type in whatever you wanted as your search, latest news, for example, and you would get the news. And now you've got the third option, where you get probably a more unbiased response. And here we've got in ChatGPT, they actually come back with TheVerge.com, NewYorkPost.com. So they have media sources you can actually click on, and they've got a little sources button. Grok does not have that, but again, everything is in the verbiage here already. I'm going to call it a tie. They both kicked butt, and I would trust both of them to come up with some decent information about current events and real-time news. And that just happened 2 hours ago. I am curious. I didn't type it in immediately. I'm going to test myself in the near future, and I'll come back with the result and you guys try it as well and tell me what happened with you. I'd like to know how fast it's getting the news. Like, if this news was 10 minutes ago, is it already in ChatGPT? Where is it getting its news from? I know it pulls the websites, but I'm very curious to see exactly how quickly it comes back. So it's a win on both accounts, in my estimation, for Grok and ChatGPT. They both did a great job. Let's move now into our new book of the week, and we like to change it up approximately once a week. We were talking about a great prediction from one of the most known financiers of our time. Of course, that would be Donald Trump, but probably the second, top five, we'll call him. That would be Robert Kiyosaki, who announced just this week, I believe it was yesterday, the day before, and we announced it right here that Robert Kiyosaki was going to sell all his gold and silver and buy Bitcoin. He announced it himself. Whether he does it or not, I'm not quite sure, or whether I don't know what his timeline is, but to hear him even say that was surprising, because I know he's been stacking gold and silver since 1965. So, most of us here weren't even born in 1965. So he's been stacking silver and gold when it was probably like $1, or gold bar ounce was probably a couple $100, and silver was probably $5 back when fiat money was still made of silver. He was stacking silver, he was stacking gold. Then he went into buying gold mines. But part of that, what really made him famous, was his book that is a #1 seller, and it's been for sale. I'm not actually sure when it was published, but I know it's been around for a couple decades, and it's still on the #1 list of finance books. A recommended read from me. I've read it, I believe, 3 times, and the book is called A Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I have links to it in the show notes. I have a link to the YouTube, so you can actually listen to it for 100% free. And of course, if you like it, then by all means, go out to your bookstore and pick it up. Or you can go to his official website, which I also have in the show notes, and you can buy it through there or buy it through Amazon. A review of the book. So it starts off with, it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. His dad, Robert Kiyosaki, was a professor, and he was a very, very well-educated guy. He was a teacher, but that's all he knew how to do. His friend, and they grew up in Hawaii. I know his name's Japanese, but he's actually from Hawaii. So his friend, who you would think was the poor dad, first of all, he doesn't have 2 biological fathers. One father is his own father, and that's the poor dad. That's the school professor, who you would think would be the rich dad, because he went to school, he had a great job as a school teacher, he made a lot of money. Then his friend's dad, which is actually the rich dad, had a tough time as a kid, had to drop out of school when he was, I think, in grade 11 or something like that, or to take care of his parents. But he had his own business, and he worked really hard at it, and he lived in a not so nice house, and he drove a not so nice car, but he had 3 or 4 little businesses, and he had a bunch of people working for him. So Rich Dad's biological dad had a beautiful home, nice cars, nice everything, a good secure job, but he ended up to be the poor dad. So in this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki is effectively suggesting that education is important, and I'm sure he wouldn't have gotten where he was without a university education. But the poor dad ended up to be the rich dad in the end, because his friend's dad, which was, everybody would think he was the poor one because he, dropped out of school in grade 11. But because of his business savvy, he ended up to be far richer than his own dad. And Kiyosaki learned all his business lessons from his friend's dad. And one of the things that he learned, which we covered the other day, was pay yourself first. And that's a big topic on this book, and that is that the government taxes the hell out of everybody, and your number one expense as a working class employee are taxes. It's not your house, it's not your car, it's not your expenses, it is taxes. And they take those taxes straight from your paycheck. Before you even see your money in your bank account, you're already taxed on that money. What the entrepreneur, the corporation owner does is they make money with their business. They then spend the money they made on their business. Of course, they spend it on their business or on, but let's face it, if you buy a, car for your business, well, you're also going to drive that car, right? It's not that it stays at the company's facility. In fact, your company might be out of your house. So you make the money, you then spend the money, and then there's nothing left to pay taxes on. That's how the whales are doing it. That's how the rich people do it. That's how Trump does it. That's how Kiyosaki does it. You make $1 million, you spend $1 million. What's left to pay taxes on $0 is zero in taxes. So that's how they're doing it, folks, and I'd highly recommend this type of model for everyone. Again, it's a good read. It's more of a very nice story. He doesn't give you the great tips. You kind of have to read through the lines. But he does talk about, frugality. And again, we've talked about this before, and being frugal doesn't mean cheap. It just means being smart with your money. So the rich dad, he didn't have a nice car. His car was squeaky. His house, when you walked in his house, the floor squeaked. It wasn't the nicest house in the neighborhood. It wasn't the nicest car in the neighborhood. But he didn't try to look rich. And that is part of the problem with society today, is everybody tries to look rich, and when essence, that looking rich is what's actually making you poor. So, for example, everybody is living outside of their means. And people need to start living within their means. I say it every day, and I'll say it again. Money is abundant, everybody, and money is everywhere. There's approximately 700 trillion in global assets out there. Go get yourself some. What's not abundant is time. Time is what's scarce. And as I just mentioned, spend less than what you earn. And this is the frugal part. And this is what Kiyosaki, one of the underlying lessons of this book, is the rich dad didn't set out to look like he was rich. He was looking to save his money, and he did save his money. Fine, he had a crappy car. Fine, he had a bit of a crappy house. It was a modest house. It wasn't a crappy house. It was enough for him and his family, and that was it. It wasn't a 11 bedroom, 7 washroom house. It was a basic house and a basic car and a basic lifestyle. But along with that was the fact that he was able to save a lot more money because he was living a modest lifestyle and not trying to keep up with the Joneses. And on top of that, because he was living a modest lifestyle, he was able to save more money. So I also suggest you start saving today and start saving young, and that way you can retire when you're 40 and not retire when you're 60 and 70 and too old to actually enjoy the things you love doing. If you have a great idea, start with that idea today. Don't wait around. Start today, even if you're not ready, and things will slowly come together for you, and it'll be an exciting, new, fresh feeling. And, I always say, go out there and fail, all right? It sounds crazy, but this is how you learn, and it's better to try and fail than it is to not try at all. at least you'll know what it is to fail. At least you'll know what it is to try. And any of those failures, they'll actually help you succeed the next time you try. And I've mentioned this before. Thomas Edison, and when inventing the light bulb, he failed 10,000 times before he got it right. Dyson, probably next to Elon Musk, maybe the second most famous inventor of our time, this Dyson guy, he failed, he's gone on record to say that he failed 5,000 times before he invented his first vacuum. And he said straight out, I'm a failure, right? Sounds funny, but from every little failure, he made things better and better and better until he finally learned. Hopefully you found this stream enjoyable, guys. If you did, please share, like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you on the next stream. Thanks for joining Crypto News Global, and have a great night.